Okay.
So,
All right.
the president,
Good morning. Thanks for joining
good
us
morning.
live from the Rabos International Airport. I know it's really very early this morning,
As you can
but
see from
my
our
name is
camera,
Anthony Williams, and I'm coming to you live here on the Liberia National Television. His Excellency President BOAKAI returns to the country today upon attending two international engagements. Of course, the first one, President BOAKAI's visit to Paris, France, on the invitation of his counterpart, French President Emmanuel Macron. And of course, he eventually, upon completing his travel to Paris, France, the president headed towards the UAE, where he met the crown prince there and went to Dubai precisely to attend to other international engagements. Well, as we speak, early this morning, the flight bringing His Excellency President BOAKAI to Liberia has just touched ground here at the Rabos International Airport, the RRA. And we are coming to you live from the VIP lounge of the RRA, where President BOAKAI will be received by government officials. Here at the RRA, we have the Minister of State, who is awaiting to receive His Excellency the President, along with several other government officials. But let's show you the flight as he arrives here at the Rabos International Airport early this morning, here at the RRA here in Lower Margibi County. Wherever you're watching and following us from, my name is Anthony Williams, and I'm bringing you this broadcast live from the Rabos International Airport. And there you have the flight. I'm sure you're getting the sound of the flight arriving here at the Rabos International Airport, bringing to Liberia His Excellency President BOAKAI upon attending two international engagements there. And that is the flight right ahead of you, bringing the Liberian President, His Excellency President BOAKAI, to Liberia. It's quite an early morning flight. The early arrival here in Liberia. It's just 5:40 a.m. This morning here at the Rabos International Airport. So there you have the flight arriving there, bringing His Excellency President BOAKAI to Liberia. Wherever you're watching and following us from, we'd like to say thanks for watching and thanks for following. Alright, folks, any moment from now, we expect His Excellency the President will disembark his flight, of course, arrive to Liberia. My colleague Vasta Talu and I will bring you live updates on the President's trip to Paris, France. Of course, at the same time, we will update you. We are also expecting to hear from His Excellency the President BOAKAI, to bring us up to speed on some of the international engagements that he made while in Paris, France. Of course, upon his visit to Paris, France, the President also held bilateral talks with the UAE's President, His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan. There was just on the 5th of November of this year, President BOAKAI, while on his trip there in Paris, there in Abu Dhabi. While there in Abu Dhabi, the United Arab Emirates, President BOAKAI held high-level talks with His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, the President of the United Arab Emirates. And some of these discussions were aimed at strengthening bilateral relations and also exploring new areas of cooperation between Liberia and the UAE. I mean, President BOAKAI's meeting with the President of the UAE took place at the Kas Adbar, that's there in Abu Dhabi, where the President was warmly received by His Highness Sheikh Zayed. Of course, discussions were centered around collaboration in key sectors such as renewable energy, healthcare, education, tourism, agriculture, and the development of transport infrastructure and logistics. President BOAKAI also commended the UAE for its remarkable strides and partnership that will drive mutual growth and prosperity. The president also noted that Liberia's development priorities aligns with that of the UAE, and also for sustainable economic diversification and inclusive progress. So he's now here in Liberia upon attending these international engagements, and of course also there while the president was in France, he met with his French counterpart, French President Emmanuel Macron, where they both held bilateral talks there in Paris, France. When President BOAKAI arrived there in France, he was given a special welcoming by the French army, where he was officially received there in Paris, France, where the French National Guards gave the president the state's welcome there in Paris. So, but there he is, President BOAKAI. Right there this morning, and of course arriving here in Liberia. The president is being accompanied by his members of his delegation, and now he's being greeted by the Minister of State, Honorable Stifwa. And of course now President BOAKAI will make his way to the VIP lounge of the Rabat International Airport upon his arrival here in country. We are hoping to hear from President BOAKAI to give us more details about his travel to Paris, France. He's been received by the Minister of State, Minister Stifwa. So several members making up President BOAKAI's delegation also included the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Madam Sarah Beslow Yanti. Madam Yanti headed several bilateral meetings there while President BOAKAI was in Paris, France. All right. So both the President and the Minister of State have made their way in there. We also see members of the President's delegation. We have Minister Mamakai Bilithi, who formed part of President BOAKAI's delegation, coming there. We also do see the President's Chief of Protocol arriving here also at the Rabat International Airport, making our way in there at the VIP lounge of the RRA. We're also expecting several members of the President's cabinet, inclusive of the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Madam Sarah Beslow Yanti. But if we just show you out there, that is the flight that brought His Excellency President BOAKAI to Liberia from attending 2 international engagements. Most importantly, one there from Paris, France, and of course another one from the UAE, where the president met the president of the United Arab Emirates there in the UAE. So wherever you're watching and following us from, you can now stick and stay with us as we bring you the details on President BOAKAI's arrival here in Liberia. The president, like we were saying, was in Paris, France, where he held bilateral talks with his French counterpart, French President Emmanuel Macron. And also, the president also did participate in several international engagements as it relates to his visit there in Paris, France. We were talking about meetings with several French companies and French businesses while there in Paris, France. President BOAKAI held a meeting with MENDEF, MENDEF is one of the highest employers there in Paris, France. And also the president also held meetings with a French energy giant, Total Energy, and also held meeting with ArcelorMittal. As you all know, ArcelorMittal has been in Liberia, operating here in Liberia for several years now. And of course, several other French companies that President BOAKAI held meetings with while he was there in Paris, France. So there are more details that we're expecting to get. We're also hoping to hear from His Excellency the President to tell us some of the outcomes of his bilateral with several of his with several entities, and also with his French counterpart, and of course the President of the UAE while he was on his visit there in that part. So I mean, just about the meeting there in the UAE, it was not quite a long one. It was not quite a long one, but at the same time, the president held key discussions while he was out there. I mean, also climaxing his tour while he was in Paris, France, President BOAKAI held engagements with Liberians residing there in Paris, France on the climax of his trip. And there are several issues raised by these Liberians while the Liberian leader was in Paris, France. And this was precisely on Friday, on the 31st of October, when he concluded his tour while there in Paris, France. He held a dialogue with Liberians living in France and across the European diaspora. And of course, that interactive engagement took place in Paris following a series of high-level meetings aimed at strengthening Liberia's international partnership and advancing national development goals. Now, the dialogue on the 31st of October did provide an open platform for Liberians abroad to engage directly with the president on key national issues including governance, economic growth, youth empowerment, education, and diaspora engagement. President BOAKAI, while at that particular citizen engagement there in Paris, France, emphasized that Liberians everywhere remain vital partners in the rebuilding efforts, of Liberia. Also, the contributions of Liberians in the diaspora obviously indispensable to Liberia's progress, as we all may know. So President BOAKAI did appreciate those Liberians residing there in France and some parts of Europe who made their way to the diaspora, to that diaspora engagement event. In fact, in his words, he said, "Your ideas, your resources, and patriotism are crucial as we continue to rebuild institutions, create opportunities for our young people, and also restore confidence in Liberia's future." That was one clear thing the president said to those Liberians who were at that event. And of course, even the very members of the Liberian community took turns to express their own appreciation for the president's outreach, and also sharing their perspectives on how the government can better support diaspora investment, citizenship rights, and also partnerships for development. A lot of them were speaking about, because they think it's about encouraging investment in Liberia, so a lot of them were focusing making observation about the business climate here in Liberia. Most of them also spoke about the turnaround time at the National Port Authority, speaking about getting their goods off the port, speaking about the tariff and all of that. So, but at the same time, President BOAKAI himself did highlight ongoing efforts to create an enabling environment that can encourage diaspora participation in national transformation, also in investment, trade, and other areas, including reforms to promote ease of doing business. Towards citizenship implementation also was something key that was being discussed, and also the mobilization of technical expertise from Liberians who are living abroad. I mean, that event concluded with renewed calls for unity. As usual, President BOAKAI do call on Liberians to unite, and also speaks about patriotism, collaboration between the government and the Liberian diaspora in advancing, the shared vision of a peaceful, prosperous, and inclusive Liberia. I mean, long discussions were held. The president met the heads of the Liberians residing in Europe and France. They held key, meetings and discussed on way forward to contribute to Liberia's growth and development. So we're still here at the RRA. President BOAKAI is into the VIP launch of the RRA, but at the same time, members of the press are awaiting to necessary questions of his trip from Paris, France. Sure. So, speaking about some of President BOAKAI's engagements there, I was reminding you earlier, or mentioning MENDEF, one of the largest employers there in France. It's a conglomeration of French businesses, the enterprise of French businesses called MENDEF. And President BOAKAI did hold a meeting with Mendes, and he did address an economic roundtable that was organized under the auspices of the movement des Enterprises de France. Forgive my French if it's not perfect, but that's the movement of French enterprises, or MENDEF. It's the largest employer federation as part of efforts to attract foreign investment and strengthen bilateral economic ties between Liberia and France. That meeting was held. President BOAKAI addressed MENDEF while he was there in Paris, France. I mean, that high-level engagement that was held was in line with the president's, ongoing initiative to diversify Liberia's foreign policy and also reposition the nation as a trusted destination for trade and investment in West Africa. I know if you do listen to President BOAKAI, usually you will hear him say, most people will say other countries area for investment and trade in Africa, but he usually do make it clear also at the same time, while those countries possess those factors, Liberia also is the destination for trade and investment. Putting Liberia on the international map, on the global platform, presenting the country as being ready for trade and investment. Now, speaking about MENDEF as one of the largest employers in France, or French Employment Federation, the meeting that President BOAKAI held, was a senior executive, forum. Of course, from some of France's leading corporations, including Group Care. If you know some of these French companies, Materi, RKA Technology, Reckney, Avra, Bureau, Veritas, Total Energies, as we all know, famous French energy giant Total Energy, Sonar Design, Sharp Vision Orange, MENDEF International, and Venting Construction Grant Projects. Now, most of these companies, as you may know, are into several investment areas. We're talking about solar energy, we're talking about, investment, trade and investment, solar energy, construction companies, agricultural groups. Lots of these groupings met with the president to hold key discussions on Liberia's investment plan. Now, in President BOAKAI's address, he presented Liberia's National Development Blueprint, which, of course, you all know the arrest agenda for inclusive development, which obviously prioritizes agriculture, roads, infrastructure, rule of law, education, sanitation, and tourism. Some of these sectors that I named earlier, key focus of the meetings that were held with MENDEF, the French enterprise, as it relates to investment in Liberia. Now, President BOAKAI also did express strong and enduring ties between Liberia and France, acknowledging, France's consistent support toward Liberia's reconstruction and development. In his words, when he met with his French counterpart, French President Emmanuel Macron, he did describe the French president as a friend to Africa, based on France's, diplomatic relations with Africa. Come to think of it, France has got a huge influence on the African continent. We all know that there's a lot of francophone countries. Liberia is neighboring two of these francophone countries. We're talking about Guinea, La Côte d'Ivoire, or the Ivory Coast, if you may. And so, one of one of the things that was crucial while the Liberian delegation was in front was for Liberia to also, for the lack of a better word, to make efforts to be or to form part of the French development, organization of Francophone country or Francophonie, if you may. And of course, Liberia might not be a Francophone country, but this particular association also does include other countries for diplomatic reasons, development reasons, for trade reasons, for investment purposes. So that was one thing that Liberia pushed for through the efforts of the Minister of Foreign Affairs while President BOAKAI was there in Paris, France. And so, the president, while holding some of these meetings, especially that of the one with Menya, he made a powerful appeal, to them. Especially in his words, I don't know if you can remember, but the exact words that President BOAKAI did, mentioned while he was at that meeting was presenting to these French investors to forget about Liberia's past and not just the country's current situation, but its past, to determine their investment plan to Liberia. He said, please do not judge us by our past. The culture of Liberia is not dishonesty. Give us a chance to prove that today marks a new day for Liberia and that we want to be respected as a country. That's a huge way of encouraging investment, of encouraging folks who want to come to the country and make investment opportunities. So we're waiting. He's currently into the VIP lounge. We're hoping to hear from him as he concludes his international tours and visits while he was there in Paris, France. It was just 6 days ago when the president met with the French president, President Emmanuel Macron. He also met with 7 days ago, then he met with the French enterprise manager. But these meetings were crucial while President BOAKAI was there in Paris, France. On October 30th in Paris, France, he hosted a breakfast meeting with his counterpart, French President Emmanuel Macron, and his delegation at the Palace LSE. Palace LSE is like the home of the French president. So President BOAKAI met French President Emmanuel Macron there at the Palace LSE on a walking lunch focused on deepening bilateral relations and also exploring new areas of cooperation between both Liberia and France. That morning, upon his arrival, the French Guards or the French National Guards also did do parade, welcoming the president to Paris, France, and of course, the president was giving state's welcome there, received by the French president, got handshakes from the French president, and walked the stairs together, and they entered the palace and we held the walking his delegation on that morning. Foreign Minister Sarah Besko-Yanti was part of the president's delegation while he was meeting the French president. He also had the Liberian ambassador to France, Ambassador Yoli was also there. And also several other Liberian ambassadors of foreign nations within Europe. We're talking about Brussels, Ambassador Sima. There's also President BOAKAI's delegation. I met French President. That meeting was focused on key bilateral discussions. So there was a lot that came out of that discussion. Of course, they all led to President BOAKAI also the French component declared interest in wanting to invest in Liberia. The French president, the French government also does have the intention of wanting to make key investments here in Liberia. But of course, a lot of these investments and discussions have to go through French businesses, through French companies, the French investment business, before eventually lending here in Liberia. So I mean, once that meeting started, that meeting opened with President BOAKAI congratulating. In fact, it was the French president congratulating President BOAKAI on his successful visit to the U.S. and, of course, the United States. He also commending the impactful presentation that President BOAKAI delivered during his engagement at the White House with the U.S. President Donald Trump. And of course, according to Foreign Minister regarding President BOAKAI's engagement with the U.S. President, President BOAKAI, a lot of people might see it differently. But once President BOAKAI arrived at Tennessee to meet French President Emmanuel Macron, that was one of the first things that he's pointed out, to thank President BOAKAI for his engagements with the U.S. President, congratulating him and commending him, of course, for his composure and the way he handled issues there upon his arrival. President Macron also congratulated Liberia on its election to the United Nations Security Council. As you all know, Liberia is now a non-permanent member of the UN Security Council. So the French president did commend Liberia for sitting on the UN Security Council and expressing appreciation for President BOAKAI's visit to France, describing it as an opportunity to strengthen ties between, both Liberia and France. Now, President BOAKAI then attended the French people and the French government for the hospitality. I mean, you all have seen the videos coming out of President BOAKAI for a while. Pictures coming out, about the picture and all of that. But we all watched the welcoming ceremony there at the French military complex where President BOAKAI was received by the French Guards, the French National Guards, the French Army, and then on the following day, we went to Palace LSE. I mean, 3 official ceremonies. Upon arrival on the airport, we were received by the French National Guards. Upon arrival in Paris, France itself, he was given a special welcoming ceremony at the military complex, and also on the day he met with French President Emmanuel Macron, was also given another special military welcome. So this honor bestowed on the Liberian president, in most corridors, has been discussed as the way of putting Liberia on the map internationally and creating strong ties, with bigger countries. My colleague Vashta Talu is along with me here in Paris, here on the Ramos International Airport. We're speaking about President BOAKAI's arrival to France, Paris, France, and also being an opportunity to have traveled with the president to cover his travel to Paris, France. So a lot to discuss, so my colleague Pastor wants to weigh in on the moment. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much, Anthony. Really a lot of talking because you have details about the trip to France. So let's talk a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about a day when the pictures were circulating on social media and people were saying that the pictures were AI. So can you give us a real answer to this question? Were the pictures taken from an AI app or were they?
So I think the government of Liberia is a responsible institution. It represents our country. And I don't want to believe the official people on the country. I want to be posting content of artificial intelligence. Because posting AI content, anyone can get that the opportunity. And just in exactly putting it into another AI software to authenticate what it's not. President BOAKAI has outstanding, media team comprising of presidential presidents. We have professional camera guys like manage their camera, that photography like known nationally. But the photographer who is assigned to this presidential exceptional is someone that we all have worked with. Can't work with. level of professionalism. And also, as someone who was on the trip, His Excellency being there, taking pictures, man, there's a live stream. So it tells you that I know, the authenticity of the content that was posted on the executive market Facebook. I mean, with the AI conversation that's going around, even your parents and yourself are Gemini, ask if that is a possible, author, or everything like this. You see the bio data, see when you're speaking, what length of view, aperture, frame rate, and all of that will be in the background of the presentation. So I can guarantee you that those contents posted on the executive marshal are authentic. They were taken by a professional photographer who is fine with this level. There's nothing that artificial intelligence.
Okay, so it looks like the president is around.
Yeah. Of course, that's how you have a question, so you have a wooden microphone now. Let's continue from here.
Sure. Yeah, discussion.
This is LNTV, this is ELBC Radio coming to you live from the Ravas International Airport, where His Excellency and entourage have touched grounds following official visits to France and that of the United Arab Emirates.
How are you doing? Good.
Yeah, my name is Master Carlo. Welcome back to the country, Mr. President. I did visit the United Arab Emirates and France and held discussions with your counterparts. How important are those discussions to my government's Mr. President?
Part of it is that is a reassuring and discussions with the young expected, especially in France, and also in Dubai, but then also discussions with
Okay, Mr. President, Princess Kosiba and Akufo came in. So as part of your engagement there in France, you have Liberians who reside there. And then they are pleading with you for the resumption of Air France to Liberia. How soon do we expect that?
I can promise that, but that's a discussion. We take note of all the discussions that go on when we travel, we promise it. But these are things that we can work on. We take them. We don't own Air France, so we have to discuss with the authorities. But I think that's what they want to see. And we just proceed in good fashion.
Theophilus and then Anthony.
Okay, Mr. President, welcome. You met with other folks in the UAE. Can you tell us some important investment that you are cognizant that the UAE will invest in Liberia in time to come, like next year, sir?
Well, there's a much talks about the Emirates, the Liberia, but also more important to that investment. And the king said,
Sorry.
and the team here, I think that even more of something that we look forward to. And we believe the chances are great.
Okay, so Mr. President, we know that President Emmanuel Macron did invite you, but the UAE, was there an invitation, sir?
Yes. Otherwise I wouldn't have gone there. Not very official, but in China that we appreciate.
Okay.
And that we're more productive.
Mr. President, you did hold crucial meetings with French employment enterprise MENDEF, one of the largest employment enterprise in France. And there are several companies who were part of that meeting. And from the press release on the executive marshal, most of these companies expressed interest in wanting to invest here in Liberia. Mr. President, follow-up mechanism is key. When do we expect to see results from these companies?
People around here are hearing you.
Yes, sir.
We've done our work. We're supposed to do it on the ground, and we promise to do that. Thank you.
All right. President BOAKAI there addressing members of the press upon his arrival here in Liberia from attending two crucial international engagements there, from France to Paris, France, and then eventually to the UAE, where he met several French companies and businesses who expressed interest and wanted to invest in Liberia. You heard him. The members of his delegation who followed him, it's up to them now to make the necessary follow-up mechanisms to ensure that these businesses and companies that have expressed interest in wanting to invest in Liberia can come to the country and invest in Liberia, obviously. So wherever you watched us and followed us from, my name is Anthony Williams, folks. I've been bringing you this live coverage from the Rabat International Airport. I'm here with my colleague Vashta Talu and, of course, my boss, Mr. Tifo Flobo, who joined us for this broadcast. It's a Friday, and President BOAKAI is in country. He's making his way now to town. And so wherever you watched and wherever you followed us from, live from the Rabat International Airport. Thanks for watching, and bye-bye for now.